This is what happened in September.
Well, we've been working on the apartments all through the last part of August and in through the whole of September, it seems. But at least after 3 weeks of being here in Guyana, Yulia finally made it into her apartment. There was a toilet there. There wasn't water. Unfortunately, she got a really rough introduction into the mission field, being that she had to carry a bucket of water to flush the toilet even.
Hey.
But hey, she had a toilet.
Yep.
And she had a bed there, and she didn't have a shower. She had to use our house, but you know, it was a good experience for her. She still enjoyed being here for the time she was here, and we'll tell more of her story in another later video.
Yeah. So most of September was spent actually just I'm not sure what, because things just take a long time here when we are just trying to survive and live here. You know, it takes 3 days to run into town and get supplies for some project that's only going to take me like 2 hours to finish up. But anyway, most of September was spent actually working on the four-wheeler. Crystal can tell you about that a little bit. And then when the barrels arrived that month, and we had shipped 2 separate shipments, 3 barrels from Minnesota and 4 barrels from Washington, and just the way it worked out, they all arrived on the exact same ship, so there was 7 barrels to be cleared all at once. I went to the wharf, and usually when I'm clearing barrels, I want to be there right away early in the morning as soon as the wharf opens, and I was there this time. I was the first person to get there to clear any barrels, and so right at the top of the line, they brought mine out first. And the customs agent, because there was so many barrels, said we're going to have to look at everything. Normally they only take out like the top, 20% and stuff, and kind of just dig through a little bit. But this time they wanted to take everything out of every barrel and look at the whole thing. And so they did that. 7 barrels. They pulled it out and laid it out on tables, and customs agent came and looked at everything, so they saw everything, the four-wheeler parts, the engine for it, the brand new tires that we'd shipped down there, the couple of brand new solar batteries, and just a bunch of other things that they were pretty excited about seeing. But there's a handler that handles the paperwork for you when you go into the wharf there. You basically hand your paperwork to one person, and he goes through and makes sure that your paperwork gets to the right people and kind of tells you where to go and what to do. And this guy said, just sit here and wait. I'm going to work with the customs agent. They saw all this stuff, but I'm going to work with them, and we should be able to figure something out. But just wait until they do their thing, and I'll come and talk with you. And so, excuse me, I waited for what seemed like quite a while, but I was a little bit worried, and I just started praying and said, okay, God, you know what needs to be done. If we have to pay a lot of customs duties, we'll pay the customs duties, whatever we have to do. And finally, the handler guy came back with a stack of papers and showed me the report that had the customs duties listed on it. And when he gave me the number, and he said, this is what for this shipment and this shipment, because there were 2 separate shipments really. And he said, for this one it's this much, and this one it's this much, because this one had a few of these parts in it. And when I looked at them and put the numbers together, and it was only a little bit more, it wasn't very much more than what the average is for any barrels anyway, because there's usually a set amount per barrel. And it had to have been a miracle that this guy was, I think this guy was an angel, that the handler, that he worked with the customs agent and did something, and so the customs duties really weren't any more than we were expecting to pay anyway. And then the process from there, you go through multiple windows paying wharf duties and paying their customs duties and getting stamps here and a signature there, and then you go and get a vehicle pass to bring your vehicle in and pick up the barrels, and all these different windows that you have to go through. And in the middle of that, I was waiting in line at one window, and down the hall out of an office came a customs officer with quite a few bars on her shoulder. She was a higher ranking customs officer than the people that do the inspections. and she had the stack of papers, and she started looking up and down the hall, and she saw me, and she looked at me, and she like waved me over to her, and I'm like, I'm not sure if I should go over there or not. I'm standing in line here, and I don't know. She started walking my way and started waving me, so I kind of stepped a little bit out of line and said, oh, what's up? And she started to show me some paperwork, and it was my paperwork, and there was some notes written on it about tractor tires or something like that. That's what I saw. I saw something about tractor tires, and she started to say something, and immediately the handler was walking down the hall. He just happened to walk by, and he looked at and saw what was going on. He looked at her, and he's like, oh, no, this isn't the right guy. And he's like, you need to come this way. And I was just like, I don't know what to say here. And he's just like, you just go back in line. So I did what I was told, and he went off, and I didn't hear anything more about it, anything like that. And then, where am I at in the story?
Vehicle pass.
Oh, then there was I think that was when I was getting in line for the vehicle pass. So I got a vehicle pass, and that means you can go out and you can bring your vehicle in. And I was basically ready to pick up the barrels and get out of there. So I went out, got the van, and drove it in through the gate and around the back of the building. And the handler was out there again with some workers, and they rolled the barrels out, and they stuffed 4 of them in the van. And I was like, can I just like come back for the next 3 later? Can I get another pass or something like that? He was like, let me tell you what, I'll have these guys roll them out just outside the gate, and you can come back and pick them up there. We'll keep an eye on them out there. So I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that works, no problem. So you don't have to bother with me coming back in here again or whatnot. And so he had the guys roll it out, and we stuffed stuff in the van. And as somewhere in this process, I asked him, I was trying to ask him, like, how much do you need, for how much do I need to tip you for this? Because usually I'll give the guys a little bit to just to be friendly, because that's kind of their work
custom.
and their custom. The customs here in Guyana, the custom in Guyana is to tip people a lot for things, because they don't get paid really well. So I was asking the guy how much, and he immediately turned and started walking away and waved me off and said, "Don't worry about it." I'm like, I haven't even finished asking the question. So I'm like, okay. Then he got me the paperwork. He drove me out to the security gate. He actually had the paperwork in his hand that I'm supposed to hand the security officer at the gate. So I'm driving out to the gate. The gate was open because the guys were rolling the other 3 barrels out. And I drove up to the gate, and the gate officer came out. She's like, "Where's your paperwork?" I'm like, "He's got it." And I turn around, and the guy's already on his way back in the building. And I never saw the guy again after that point. He's walking away in the building. I'm like, "He's got the paperwork." She looked at, "Oh, okay, go ahead and go through." And I never saw this angel again. And I drove out the gate, and I was completely out, and ended up hiring a taxi to just take the other 3 barrels with me, and so I didn't have to come back and collect them and whatnot. And so, but I really think that God really blessed and sent an angel there to work this process and work us through that process and clear the barrels without a whole lot of problems.
It was
awesome.
fast, and me sitting here at home, of course, we're messaging back and forth. How's it going? How much is it? And all he's telling me is little bits like, they opened the whole barrel, and I'm going, oh no, I know what's in those barrels. What are they going to do? So God really, really gave us an opportunity to pray, and he worked things out through his mighty ways, putting someone there that could help us. And it was good to see God's hand in it. Mm-hmm. Like Chris said, once the barrels got here, we got everything out. Did we fly it out or did we drive it out? I can't even remember. I think we drove all the barrels out, didn't we?
No, I don't remember either.
We didn't bring the barrels.
We brought it all in the airplane?
In boxes. I think it was in the airplane.
In the airplane. So after a couple of flights in the airplane bringing it all out here, Chris and Corey and even little Kara got to unpacking a lot of it. I remember now because I had to carry it up onto the porch since Chris wasn't here.
I was in
I
town
remember
still.
now. He was still in town. So hundreds of pounds I had to carry up onto the porch. Well, the four-wheeler parts came, the engine came, the wheels came, everything we needed to put that four-wheeler together, and he and Corey and Kara set to work on stripping the thing. They took everything off down to the metal frame, and of course I go out there and there's Kara working on the wheels, and Corey too, and they're doing everything they can to help their daddy get that thing taken apart. And then
So we can put the new parts
so we
on
can
it.
put the new parts on it, and then like the next day they started putting it back together, and within a few days they had it back together. But we'll have to tell the rest of the story for the next video.
Yep, because we didn't
Come
get
back
it running in
again.
September.
It wasn't running. There was a problem. I'll tell you one story though. We were trying to get the wheels on it, right? And our friend Oswald from the village. Of course, I'm sitting here trying to help Chris, because we had the wheels and then we had the tires, and the tires were extra wide. And so Chris was trying to do it on his own, and then I came out and I have the baby on my back, and I'm trying to help him, hold this wheel down so he can stuff it all down so it pops on there nicely, and it just wasn't working. I couldn't do it because of how the baby was, and Corey couldn't help. He was just too light, and finally, it was through an answer of prayer that we hadn't even asked really yet, that Chris, the day before at church, said, "Hey, Oswald, are you going to come up tomorrow?"
No, I just asked him. I
You
asked
said,
him.
"Are you going to the meeting?" Because there was a community meeting the next day. And he said, "Yeah, probably." And that was it. And so then the next day, Oswald comes walking up, and we're like, "Oh, hi, Oswald." And the meeting hadn't started yet because Chris was going to go to that meeting as well. Mm-hmm. But I said, "Hey, can you help him with these tires? You have any ideas? We're kind of like stuck." And so him and Chris start working at, and they finally with their brute strength got those tires, all four of them on there. And we were able to mount them onto the four-wheeler that day. But what was funny is I asked him, I said, "Well, what brought you up here? Did you want to come and do some work for us?" He says, "No, I couldn't remember if Chris had asked me to come and work or not. And all he asked me was if I was going to the meeting. So I thought he wanted me to come up and help him with something. So I got curious and wanted to hear this four-wheeler running. So through curiosity and
A random question that I asked.
we had an angel again come and help us get stuff put together. And God's had his hand in this work. We'll be able to share more stories as we go along, just because God is blessing this project. Although we have lots of troubles, they are nothing compared to all the blessings that he's given us.
That's
So,
right. That's it for September.
September.
All right. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.